third lecture of the White Coat and Other Stories session, which has been started. Um, First of all, let me thank Professor Peush Sahni, Professor Pratap Sharan, Professor Sandeep Agarwal, Professor Rajiv Kumar for their guidance behind this organization of this kind of lecture, which gives a new perspective to the undergraduates. In addition, I would like to thank the faculty which are involved. That includes Dr. Mohit, Dr. Tony, and the undergraduates, especially Mukul, Arushi, Arshit, have been interacting with us for a long period of time for all this to materialize. And nonetheless, would like to thank Dr. Aditi, who is really the main person behind it and keeps on coming up with new ideas about how to go about how to get new things, new thoughts, because it's really difficult to carry on without such these things. We've had two very excellent sessions over the last 2 weeks, and we had the initial one by Professor Piyush Sahni, followed by Priyank, who's in US, who's also now part of this team and giving his inputs how we can look at new other thoughts which can be discussed over these lectures. So I would first of all like to thank Professor Acharya for taking out his time to accept our invitation for being a speaker today. I've been given a task to introduce Professor Acharya. Let me tell you, I can keep on saying and saying it would be a no end to it. So I would just sum it up in line. He's a teacher of teachers. He's taught us. He's taught me. You got many of our other faculty members which are there, and Professor Piyush Sahni, and Professor Vinita Ahuja. We are all really grateful to him for his teaching. So when we talk about teaching, it's not only the academic part what we're looking at. You got any aspect of your issues, you can just go and talk to him. You've heard many of us who joined at 10:50 with us, how we had a discussion over the past 10 to 15 minutes. And you can be very free with him and talk to him about anything. My first interaction with Professor Acharya was in the undergraduate days, which I definitely know he'll not remember. It's 1997 or so. He used to come and take our lectures. He'll keep on speaking on the mic, giving all examples and telling us without any slides. Oh, how can you speak for an hour, 1 hour without slides? It's like that's his class, and giving examples which still I remember how he used to teach us what is cirrhosis, how an orange looks like, and how your cirrus came in, and how the terms. So those things really stick to us. So that's why I'm saying he's teacher of teachers. He know how to talk, how to tell us, how to make us understand how things are there. So and to let the undergraduates know who have actually not interacted, because Professor Charya um, uh, had retired in 1996. Most of the undergraduates don't know him. He's known for his exemplary work in liver. He's interested in liver disease and known for his exemplary work, especially in acute liver failure across the globe. And more important than his other work, I'll say, is that he's known for mentoring his students, and everybody has a due respect for him, whether it is in field of gastroenterology, medicine, or anywhere you name it. He would be he's remembered for his by his students a lot, except apart from his academic work. So I'll not take too much of time talking about what's there or not. I'm sure you're very eager to know sir's thoughts, and I would first like to invite Professor Acharya, followed by Professor Piyush Tani, who will also take you some of his thoughts. So may I hand over Professor Acharya, please? Sir, please, you can take over from here.
Thank you, Shalimar. Thank you, Professor Peush Sahni. Thank you, Vinit. And thank you, all other faculty. Good morning, friends, young friends, the known and the new. 1 week back, Dr. Shalimar telephoned me, told me, Professor Chaya, I will request you to speak to our undergraduate about something which will make them enthusiastic, will make them focused, and will make, probably, if they follow, a more happier life. Then I thought, am I eligible to do that? Have I been myself happy? Have I been actually directed myself in a proper path? And then I suddenly remembered another event. In 2013, another very dear friend as well as student of mine, whose name was Dr. Bhaskar Nandi. He was in Air Force. He was a Air Force commander at Bangalore. And in Bangalore, they used to organize school student and college student, and thousands of them come, and they hold one-day meeting to enthuse their young minds to pursue scientific research. For they invite three motivators. And Dr. Nandi told me, sir, this year you should give the lecture, and I am giving the term. He gave the term last lecture. I couldn't understand. I thought, what is this? I've never heard this. Last lecture. Then he told us it is about pursuing childhood dreams to succeed in life or to become a competent fellow. This is about a gentleman whose name is Randy Poss, who was a faculty in Carnegie Mellon. So I thought, I don't know anything about his thoughts. I don't know what are his dreams. And his dreams and my dreams may be completely different. And his exposure and my exposure may be completely different, what I will speak. So he sent the book. I read it. I wish I would have read this book when I was an undergrad. When I was a full-fledged professor and head of the Department of Gastroenterology at AIIMS, when I read this book, it influenced me tremendously. Indeed, it has changed my personality a lot after that. That's why I thought I should read this book in the child. What is this book? Randy Poss is an undergraduate fellow in Carnegie Mellon. He did his computer science and did his PhD and became a faculty there. He was a very emotionally attached to science and to his country. And he used to see young Americans, instead of joining science, will go to Wall Street because the money is there. And every day he used to get depressed because he used to lose students. And he used to go to a nearby pub to have a beer. And along with him, another fellow used to come. They didn't know initially each other. His name is Steve Siebold. He was Times Magazine advertising chief. So one day they sat in the same table and they introduced each other. And while talking, they found out they have same interest. They're enthusing students to do creative work, focusing in science. And then Steve Siebold told that, Randy, you are a computer expert. I'm an artist. Why can't you join this to enthuse young mind? They created a subject called electronic art, EA, and established in Carnegie Mellon, which got them billions of dollars. Today, all the computer games which you are seeing, in fact, is the product of this electronic art. All students which are learning through computer are the product of this electronic art. Now, Carnegie Mellon University decided that every month, just like Professor Shalimar, Vineet, and Peush Sahni decided that during this period of time, they will enthuse their undergrad. They will their mind more creative. And they organized this. Similarly, in Carnegie Mellon, they thought every month they will organize a lecture. And the first lecture was invited. And Randy Poss was invited because by that time he was a phenomenon in the university. When Randy came and gave the first lecture in Carnegie Mellon, this was the title he gave, the last lecture. And then he explained, this is the first lecture of the university, but this is my last lecture because I have pancreatic cancer with metastasis into the liver disease, liver as well as lungs. And that was 5 months back. And my physician told me, you have 3 months to live. But just now I bought a new house for the family, a new car, and I'm fit. I'm fine. I know I will die. But I want to tell you my experience. I have no regrets. And that's why I termed this as the last lecture. And his experience is fantastic. Learning, rewarding. But how he saw things in the childhood, how he dreamed things, and what he became was the story. And Bhaskar asked me to read this and deliver a lecture. I found the Randy Paws was exposed to brilliant things in childhood, and therefore he could describe this experience and follow a dream. And when I thought what I will see, I grew up in a village in a Charsali where there was nothing. So how can I dream to succeed or to do something in life? And Bhaskar forced me to speak. When Shalimar told me, I thought I will modify it and present to you. See whether you can write, get any message out of it. If it helps it, right, the time is worth spent. If it helps even 1% of you, the time is worth spent. This is what I told, right? And I have given a subtitle of self-development. There are many issues in it. And I found today, developing yourself in a proper direction needs a mentor who is interested in, who will give a actually right direction. But it is scarce. And therefore, and our inputs have increased. I thought, let it be a title called self-development. Plus, I used to hear to many, many wise people about life. So I have given the title self-development. Okay. For exciting young minds, particularly science and technology. These are Randy Pauw's various monuments in Karlagivana. So that's what I was thinking. It was Randy Pauw who in childhood went to various places. He went to NBA, wanted to be a basketball player. He went to NASA, he wanted to float in air. Right? He went to Disneyland. He wanted to be a bear of that Disneyland. Right? But when Bhaskar asked me, I was very surprised. Why me? I'm an ordinary government doctor. I don't have adequacies like Randy had. Can I communicate properly? Can I enthuse you? Childhood in India usually decided by parents. Elders are always wise, and young people are never wise. And the first thing I want to tell you, I differ there. I think you should have your own mind. You should have your own dream. Of course, I agree, there should be exposure. We do not have such exposure in India to millions. And I will tell you, that's why. So I asked myself before that, can I think about the journey of my life? Do I think, have I learned? If I have learned, can I convey those lessons to you? Will it benefit? Can I assist to achieve your dreams? Right. So these were my doubts, but I delivered that. But I'm not going to tell you details about this lecture. I'm going to tell you only a portion. That's why I told you, Randy had many dreams, right? He saw football, he saw NBA, he saw NASA, he saw Disneyland, he had encyclopedia, he had 50 items. And every day he thought something. So he chose one, the technology. It interested him. I didn't see anything in that village except a football. Nothing enthused me except seeing that few childs in a field without a goalpost are running after a ball. And I found that is interesting. I never found maths is interesting. And biology was never considered important in our days because it was not considered brilliant, macro. Maths I couldn't understand. Very complicated. Numbers, formulas, calculations. Football was easy. You saw the ball, you think about it, and there is split second decision to right perform. And it comes effortless. You enjoy it. Right? I also like Dara Singh movie because he was strong. Right? You see, this is the exposure I had. So I thought I will be a national football player, not a doctor. I never thought about it. Right? Because that is exposure. So first thing, exposure is important. Don't alienate yourself from exposure. Don't alienate yourself from events. They will make you enriched. Without your knowledge, they will enter your mind. You will get directions. That's what I was trying to think. I used to do very bad maths. So I used to fail in maths. I remember in class 5, I secured 8. And since I was with my grandfather, I was scared that he will beat me because I'm not reading. So I made it 80. Just put a 0. And forgot to change the aggregate. I showed the mark sheet to my grandfather. He thrashed me because he saw the aggregate is different. Right? He told me, don't say a lie. You don't read. Why don't you read? I will tell you a further story. So, but I never left football. I in the right, I didn't have camera those days to document actually real photographs. I have given a symbol. I used to kick in the night and made all our mosquito nets. The village was a lot of mosquito, right? Torn. Again, my grandmother will trust for soccer. I used to never read. I used to play a lot and local tournament I will join. I had to secure 8. So one day my aunt, who is a mathematics teacher, made me sit to do maths. That day I had a football match in a nearby place. So I told him I'm going to piss. And I came down from a 3-floor building through the pipe to the ground, jumped 5 houses and vanished to play football. And reached night in the night. And those were skills I earned. And I was thrust further. And my grandfather tied me. We had a lot of cows in the cow shed and told me, you stay there. This is your punishment. I used to love those cows. I used to take care of them. I slept with comfortably without. See the what you learn and the enthusiasm to play football continues. So did I gain it? Later on, I thought, yes, I gained a lot. Now I learned how to work in a team. If you ask anybody in All India Institute, I've always worked in a team. I've enjoyed it. Each colleague of mine taught me. And that's what I learned while I was playing football because you share with everybody. Those days, football was a poor man's game in India, and the tournament were not rich. And we used to play in state level, university level, and we will stay in a common room in a hostel and share each other. We learned sharing. Second thing I learned what competitive spirit. You get defeated many times, and you have ability to accept difficulty gracefully, but you get determined. I remember when I was reading in Balasur Jilla School and playing for my school, there was a local village school called Khoda High School, and that school gave us 7 goals. It was so insulting. I felt depressed. 1 year I never read. Me and 3 of my friends practiced because we wanted to give 7-0 goal back to Quad. And we gave it. And that's what is the competitive spirit. Accept defeat gracefully, but try hard. Never say die. Right? That is the perseverance. And lastly, what I learned, very honest, is very transparent. Right? There is no hanky panky. There is no backdoor business. There is no manipulation. The fellow who scores the goal, you will see that he scored the goal. See the defeat. There is no file manipulating and changing the first and second products of merit. Right? And that also taught me this last language, winners never quit or quitters never win. And later on, much later in life, when I came to AIIMS, I saw this on Professor Samiran Nandis, right, board, who is Professor Sahni's boss and teacher. And that struck me immediately that this is what it should be the spirit. And you never say die, continue to. What are these things? And why I told from the beginning there are no mentors and you need mentees. You are mentees. There are scarce mentor. And therefore, certain of the characteristics are very important, which you know, which you have developed, which you have shared, right? You have not practiced. That is important. It develops personality. And what do I mean by that? I give a name called self development. Nowadays, we see from lot of people complain दे भाई ये नहीं है वो नहीं है हम कैसे काम करेंगे यहाँ तो काम होता नहीं है यहाँ तो लैब नहीं है रिसर्च कैसे करेंगे पेपर कैसे निकालेंगे ये कैसा करेंगे so you are like those seeds who will become a tree. It will have flowers, it will have fruits, but you need conditions. You need water, you need manures, you need sun, you need rain, then you will grow. So otherwise you will not grow. So you need a lot of other things to grow, but that is not there. So the characteristics of certain people, they stand on their own. Therefore, I have given this flower. This is a parched land. There is no water. There is no rain. But the seed wanted to grow in this on its own, accommodating, adjusting, modifying. Now, even it can grow on a concrete, a metal road, or, right, it can burst the metal road. They don't have help. This, they are blooming themselves with their capabilities and their characteristics. And this I define as self-development. So you think I don't have this. He is not doing this. She is not doing this. Everyone thinks of changing the world. You should do this. That's not the way the director should work. That's not the way. Right? Everybody, each of us criticize us, others. And everyone thinks of changing the world in his way, but no one thinks of changing himself. This is Leo Tolstoy told, so did Mahatma Gandhi. He told it in a different fashion. If you want a change, be a change yourself. Don't ask for it. Therefore, you are important. If you want to grow, you have to try to grow. Against odds, against difficulties, you have to bloom. That is determination, decision. I told you, right? Perseverance. Never say that. You will bloom. Now, see these people. He's a president. You know him. You know Einstein. Did not say Watson and Crick. You are seeing the DNA. This is Barry Marshall and David Warren who described H. pylori. This is Bloomberg, right? Barusa Bloomberg found hepatitis B, and here it is hidden. I've written James P. Ellis and Tosuko Hanjo. For what? Checkpoint mutations. See, these are achievers. They had dreams. They achieved it. And you can do it. Because there is no difference between you and them. Same thing. But they have a focused goal to achieve. Right? Now, these are effective people. Way back, there is a gentleman called Stephen R. Covey. He wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Right? These are powerful lessons for personal changes. What are 7 habits? First thing is proactive. You have to be first, develop things. Don't wait for things. And secondly, I have written, begin with the end in mind. All of us has a habit, I have to read this chapter, I have to write this chapter, I have to write this paper. आज शुरू करते हैं, देखते हैं, करेंगे. I think that is not an appropriate fashion. Many times you will not end. Fix the target. Begin with the end in mind of an event, of a work to do. that this is the end. I'm starting now. I must finish it. I must have a plan. I will tell about it. Therefore, you should put first thing first, prioritized. And don't think I will try. I will do it. Right? And fifth thing is a very important thing. You have seen many of us, when you are speaking, we'll immediately speak to you. You don't understand. Just listen to me. That's a very important fundamental. Unless you understand, how you will make him understand? So seek first to understand him. If you want to make him understand things your way, your event. And the sixth one is synergize. You are working in All India Institute of Medical Sciences. The institute has certain focus: research, education, innovation, patient care, in one direction, for which you need time. You need to put additional hours. You have to have inputs. You have to be focused, right? So unless you synergize with institutes' aim and goal, you go in a different directions, right? There will be problem. Usually effective people follow institute's goal and help achieving institute success more. That is the synergize. And lastly, sharpen the saw. It's the story of woodcutter. You know, a woodcutter who used to cut wood. He started cutting long hours, but despite putting long hours, the amount of wood he was cutting was same. His saw was not getting rough. So the amount of wood, despite time he was cutting, is less. Sharpen your skills. Sharpen your saw to produce more. These are the 7 most effective habits. What is Stephen Covey? I didn't write it. I read it. And I found it true. And later on, long after, he wrote the 8th habit. Do you know what is the 8th habit? Now, life is a maze. You get confused. You don't know which way you will go the direction. Therefore, from the very beginning, you should have the bigger picture, complete vision, what you want. And that helps. That helps to find directions. Okay? Now, all these things from my childhood I told, all these people's things I told, what is this? Right? And I told about a concept of self-development. Half is not seen in the slides, by chance gone. It is, the key is self-confidence. This word I find very important. The self-confidence. What is self-confidence? I will explain. This is within you. Right? You can do anything. You can do everything. Big people have told it. Right? And to link that with my story, which I was telling you, as I told you, I was not a good student. I used to play soccer, wanted to be a national soccer player. That was a dream which was not possible in this environment those days. Right? But my interest was that. So I used to never study. So I was repeatedly reprimanded, criticized, humiliated by my family, my peers. Right? But later on, I learned things changed. And I followed certain of the directions. And that is another important lesson. See, people are listening to your professors, teachers, they're trying so much. Many times they scold because they loved, they care. Remember, when nobody tell you anything, they ignore you. They have given up. So never mind. This is necessary, actually. Right? And I was doing this. I will tell you this, why I'm telling this. 2 events changed my attitude and my goal. And you are seeing me as your ex-professor. First event was this. I told you I grew up in a village. And I told you I grew up with my grandparents, not with my parents. My parents were somewhere else. My grandfather had a stroke. And the whole area has one doctor. I used to hold his hand and take him to the doctor because I used to love my grandfather so much. And I used to believe and trust the doctor knows. He will give a potion which will cure my father, grandfather. He will walk. As a kid, as a small child, I had the trust, belief in that doctor that he knows. And he will think about myself, my grandfather's conditions. With that hope, I used to go every day. I remember that distinctly. So when I became a doctor and patient started coming to you, I always remember that. This patient has come to me with a trust that I know. Do I know? When I ask this question, I find a lot of gap. And that helps me to push further. Right? First thing, trust. I learned three things from it. Second thing I learned later on, of course, I correlated our existence. We are doctors. We're not ministers. We are not secretaries. We are not rich, big Ambanis by name. Ordinary people. We're doctors. We exist if 10 people tell that we are good doctors. We take care of it, right? Our existence, the trust and existence. And most of us has been trained by taxpayers' money. That is a responsibility. If you think these three qualities you need, you are growing yourself. The trust, your responsibility, and your existence. Don't you think that needs or that demands a quest of for excellence? Think yourself. And this is the first thing. And my grandfather will tell me that, look, you are not reading. See this doctor helping hundreds of people. People are going with a smile from his house. Can you not help people? First question. This, right? The doctor was his zero. I was influenced by my grandfather. The second event. My grandfather was initially a priest, later on privately read, a poor worker in British government in a hospital, didn't have money. So we had a thatched house. My father became an engineer and built a pakka house nearby. This thatched house belonged to somebody else. We were on rent. We used to move to this new building. 3 days before moving to the building, I was in class 9th or 10th. That's why I remember. My grandfather was sowing plants in that old thing. I was irritated. Why do you sow plants here? We are moving from this house. What is the need? She smiled. She told me, when you came to this house, there was a mango tree. You enjoyed it, right? There was a nariyal tree. You enjoyed it. There was a papaya tree. You enjoyed it. I didn't do it. Somebody else did. You enjoyed it, right? Always think, she's the uneducated lady. She didn't have any exposure. The biggest thing she taught to me, bigger than anybody in the world, that somebody you do not know will be helped, just like you are being helped. And your grandpa tells you to become a doctor. Will you not read? You can help others. These are two very lowly educated people. They told me to become a doctor to help people, not to become a famous man, not to make money, not to earn name. And I remember these two people told me, will you not read to help people? I decided, I changed my mind. I told I will do both. I will become a doctor and play football. I played become a doctor. This is me with my colleagues, if you see. I was a young man then. And I became this was the university team. And later I played for my state as well. So what will happen? There is a mentoring at that time. That mentoring is lacking. That's what I'm telling. It's a so big example of my grandparents. I remember those were teachers, professors. I asked myself, have I become a professor like that? I'll tell you another interesting story. There is a gentleman called Professor K. I read in a small medical college in Orissa called Efficacy Medical College in Parampur. Many of your faculties are there from there, right? And Professor K. Rao was my anatomy teacher. Many of those faculties will know them also, who are from Orissa actually. And he will not call people by roll number. He calls people by first name. I will call you by Subrat Kumar Acharya and remember each boy's name. And he also takes tremendous interest in training the students and involved in teaching. I will tell you a story that will reflect how involved a teacher can be and how can he change a person's life, right? And I'm a bright example of that. I used to never read there also. In anatomy first test, I failed. He made me stand in this class. Why you are not reading? Always playing. You come to my room after 4 p.m. I went to his room. He told, why you are not reading? So I told him a lie. I told, I'm very poor, sir. I don't have money. I cannot buy books. That's why I cannot read. He gave me a Gray's Anatomy book from himself. Told, you have to read this chapter every day, which you have not read, and come to my room and repeat what you have remembered. He made me read like that the whole anatomy. And he changed. I got interested. Similar teacher, Professor Kerr. He will take hours lecture on Sundays. Do we come to teach our students? I remember every Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, Professor Carr will be there to teach pharmacology for 2 to 3 hours continuous classes. They influenced the mentor. We have become teachers. And I'll assure you, I'm telling you from my heart, these teachers influenced me also as a teacher. And many things in my career as a teacher, I've not been as successful as them or not as involved or motivated or completely focused, but I tried. That my students will say. I did my MBBS. So everybody does a specialty. You subject to specialty. See how you influence those teachers. Now, we used to, as undergraduate and interns, we get posted in different disciplines. And when I go to surgery OT, I used to see the professor of surgery was showing tantrums to sisters, and something changes. You throw the scalpels like this. I didn't like it. And I saw a professor of medicine while going on the street, somebody will come. भाई साहब डॉक्टर साहब ये आपने एक्सरे बताए थे ये थोड़ा देख लें. He will see the X-ray below the tree there. That was happening, and will give him medicine. I was very impressed. And he's walking with a smile. He's advising. I thought this is good branch. You can diagnose under tree and treat people. That's a fantastic thing. So therefore, I took up medicine because I saw this. Now you see responsibility. I told you self-development. In self-development, I told you self-confidence. Then I told you self-responsibility. I'm giving you example, right? How teachers, without your knowledge, you influence, you mentor, you persuade by deeds and talks, the action. These were very few of the teachers we have named, we will know who influenced my life. Because they were excellent teachers, were dedicated and mentor. And that's what I told. I'm showing this is Professor B.N. Tandon, you would not have seen. And as a young resident, right, these people influenced mine. Why? Many. This is why young resident, this is Professor Tandon, and many of our faculty beneath can identify many. So what I'm telling you, how to develop self-confidence. 3 things I told, right? And these 3 things I will organize like this. Their self-efficacy. You must be efficacious yourself. Their self-responsibility, certain responsibility. You are responsible for what you want. That's why I showed you that flower, that you can grow even without proper conditions. And therefore, we should have a direction. So the three important words in mind, remember, that self-efficacy, self-responsibility, and self-directions. What it does, this gives you a drive to increment or improvement in life in a small manner. You need not jump. And you see the Japanese word, kai jet, right? Good change, small change. You see the hands are raised. Try to raise a little more. Try to raise a little more. You can raise it. Make it. So that is the kai jet. Incremental improvement is, right, should be your goal with these three as your principles as doctors, right? So what is self-efficacy? Self-efficacy is the established psychological principle. There's nothing new. Way back in 1990s, right, famous psychologist has told there are two ways to think. If you believe you can do this, if you believe I can learn this technique, right, or innovate this technique, you might. But if you can know that you can, you will. So this is the difference. It's not have a doubt. That is the first thing of self-efficacy. Therefore, self-doubts to be prevented. Now you have a car. Now, if you want to progress, push its accelerator, but you have doubts, puts brake, it will not move. Even auto will proceed. Right? So the self-efficacy is the focused sureness or confidence, which is the part of self-confidence that I can and I will achieve it. There are no breaks. There are no doubts. Right? I believe that I can face all challenges in life. Right? That's very important. Right? Self-responsibility. I told you. Next is self-responsibility. What is self-responsibility? Now you have a child. He wants ice cream. Right? You give him ice cream. He doesn't know this is junk food. You are grown. You know what is right for you. You have to be responsible. Right? That's very important. You are responsible for your desire and their effects on your life. Right? So you will say, what is new in it? I know it. Right? But it has to sink into your mind that you are responsible for your deeds, your characters. Right? Unless you sunk in, you will never do it. You will say, all I know it. Right? So these things, right, leads to this, what I say, basics of self-confidence or self-efficacy. And that leads to a creative mind. I will give you an example what I faced once. I told you I grew up in Odisha. I also joined Odisha government service after doing my MBBS. And then I joined a PSC, Peripheral Health Center. There was nothing. You have to walk there. And one day, a laborer came, very poor. He had a 5-year-old child. He had severe diarrhea, and his kidneys were sitting on a fence. His urine output was dropping tremendously. He just simply need fluid. And there were no ORS. There is no saline. There is nothing there in the village. So I gave him 100 rupees. I told him, go to nearby hospital, a town. There you can give him fluid, your child will alive. He told, I cannot do that. I don't know how to go there. This is so illiterate, so remote. He dies. So I was very worried. Young boy, yeah, I just learned. I saw green coconuts. I told him, get me those green coconuts from the tree and cut it. So he cut it. And I used those green coconut in a glass syringe. I just drew it, boiled in a stove. First tried to give him the mouth, he vomited. Then I couldn't find his pulse. I palpated his femoral and injected in it. Because I thought I had nothing. I was surprised. After about 100, 150 ml, the child becomes oriented. His urine started coming. He became all right. Similarly, when I came back after DM to Cuttack Medical College and started to sclerotherapy, there is no sclerotherapy needle. I had a simple upper J endoscopy. We devised a sclerotherapy needle. Nowadays, that is many people devise. So you see all these things that you have to do it. I will do it. It will create in your mind, right? There are certain other things. What you did, what you learned. You learned. I showed you some effective people. I showed you some of the photographs. They have excelled, not necessarily successful. Excellent to excel is in your hand. Success is a term defined by others. Doesn't mean anything. Success for various people means various things. But excelling in your own profession is in your hand. And it means to you everything. And that gives you a satisfaction, that gives you a happiness, which essentially comes from self-confidence, which has three components, right? One of the important things you learn from observation, very astute observation. You know Sherlock Holmes story. You know, he will always say, his assistant was Watson. He will say, you're sitting in his room and somebody will be coming from outside. He can predict who is coming, right? So Watson used to, how do you know? Well, very easy. You can hear a limp, you can hear a heavy boot, you can hear a sound of a stick. So the man is limp, using a stick, using a heavy boot, and his sound is like a sandy. So he come from a beach, and yesterday the paper was in the nearby beach. The fellow who was staying, his house was robbed. So that man had come. So what does it mean? Observation, registration, and analysis. It's a very important component for medical professions. Another very interesting thing I heard from another great man, Sir Roy Khan, right? He was invited by Professor Nandi to India International Center to give a lecture for Gyan Burman lecture about Professor Sahni knows. And he says, well, every clinician do some research because that advances his knowledge. When you learn something, you are not the fellow. You should not. I have published this. I've done so much work. It's not you. It's your innumerable patients, innumerable students, innumerable assistants. It should be gratitude. Provide gratitude. You should learn and apologize when it's clear. This is very important for a medical person. There is another great man who established liver transplant. You have heard about it. I know about them, that's why I'm telling you. Thomas Starger. He had suffered a lot when he started liver transplant, that is well. But he never complained. He says, never complain. Just be focused, be self-confident, have self-responsibility, have a self-direction, and do hard work. There's a sense of all these three things, what I'm trying to tell you through example. So self-responsibility based on many things, right? You see, if you think,
Sir, could you try and wind up in 5-7 minutes, because
yeah, I will try.
students will want to ask you lots of questions.
Yeah, I will. So these are various portions of responsibility. Another very interesting thing is arrogance. For many of us, we thought we knew we are good students, we are arrogant. Now, I will told about Randy Post, who was a very successful man. And in his sophomore years, his professors identified his new awardee student. In his first meet, he puts his arm around his shoulder. Randy says, we went for a little walk. And he says, Randy, it is saying that some people perceive us so arrogant. Right? It is going to limit what you are going to get accomplished in life. What the hell of a word to say? You are being jerk, right? They don't actually mean you are a jerk. People are perceiving this way. And the downside is it is going to limit what you are going to able to accomplish. That's a very important statement which I found. That's why I told you. Arrogance. A young man, I was very arrogant. I was very strong. I learned. The young man whom you are seeing is your faculty. He only told me, sir, you are always tactless. You are arrogant fellow. You are dogma. Right? You don't know what is flexibility and acceptance. You don't see the other viewpoint. It's very important. It's the positive side, positive psychology. Right? You should learn. He taught me this. Right? Can you charm a girl with your charm? Well, no. I'll try and practice. See, this is Professor Ahuja. Then I told him, yes, I practiced and I succeeded. Huh? So I became a doctor. That was the beginning. I knew medicine is humbling. I also learned knowledge is not compartmentalized. There is huge gap in knowledge. But I was going to give you about the last word, that is self-direction. To give a direction, there are three components. Have a goal. Acquire the skills to reach there. And have a single-minded attention. Three components of self-direction. Right? And that's why I don't want to go into the detail, because unless you have a goal, when you have a goal, you want to progress, it doesn't reach, you cannot reach Everest immediately. You have to plan for it. I become a lecturer. I cannot be a top class, famous, right, professor or head who have created things. I have to plan, I have to go in stages, right, to reach, right? So that is a very important thing. So to reach that stage, you need skill. That is focus. That skill, head, hand, and heart. All three are important. So I don't want to go into this. Skills, you want to Everest, you need all this. Skills. And also have a courage, right? And another important thing for the self-direction is the absolute concentration. People check their phones 58 times a day, right? And are they concentrating? The concentration is the basic difference between a fool and a great genius, nothing else, right? So concentration is positive psychology, right? Which was given by a Seligman, a famous psychologist, right? And that is a very important thing. This is a simple example. This is a picture called Cliffhanger. It's very interesting. I went there, it finished in 10 minutes. But I saw the watch, it was 3 hours. I was focused, I was concentrated, I was engrossed. I enjoyed it. Time flies. So essentially, positive psychology gives you happiness. There are various activities, pleasurable activities, right? I've written there: alcohol, food, sex. There are engagement, you love what to do. And there are also way that you help others and you get nothing. Now somebody did an experiment. It's very important. This is the gentleman. I have no time. I'm going. And this gentleman, what he did, he actually asked the children to go to movie. No studies. People came back. Then again, another day, go to movies. Came back. Then another day, he told, we'll not go to movies. We'll go to the street children, play with them, and help. They went that. After 6 months, he asked, what do you remember in the movie? Nothing. Do you remember going to street? Each boy remembered going to the street. Each boy remembered they played with the boys. They helped the boys. And that they remember and they give them happiness. Right? And that time, this gentleman told the secret of happiness is not money, but helping others and enjoying in activity that you like, which you get engrossed, which you have to find out. Right? That is self-development. You see, money is not all. This is a celebrity chef, TV host Anthony Bourdain, very famous. Everything he has. fantastic singer, beautiful wife, they committed suicide. And if you see the over a period of time, average income has increased. The happy people have not increased. So this is not important, right? So what is important? Ecstasy, that is focused mind, enjoying your work, right? Acquiring skill, developing yourself, and being confident, right? Now, the concentration is very important for a focused achievement. You know this famous tennis player. When this tennis ball is thrown, racket, the opponent is standing. It takes zero point 0.7 seconds to reach there. To react, he needs 0.5 seconds. So if you see, it reacts, it reaches and reacts, he can never return the ball. So she's concentrating her hand, her movement, direction, the brain is registering, taking decision. So the concentration gives you this. So this is important. So that is what I call ecstasy, right? So that gives you ecstasy or flow phenomenon. I'm not going to go to these fine details. So when you become the master of your mind, you are the master of everything. Remember that. And your best. Therefore, what I told actually is that your destiny is in your hands. I have told you through these stories about your thoughts, my thoughts. These thoughts are important. Take care of your thoughts. Because your future, your happiness, your competence, your excellence depends upon your thought because they become your words. Take care of your words because they become your actions. Take care of your actions because they become your habits. Take care of your habits because they become your character. Take care of your character because it becomes your destiny. And your destiny will be your life. This I didn't. Great person. That is a great psychology. Right, Roy Emerson did. So, in conclusion, gentlemen, this is your focus: self efficacy, self responsibility, self direction, which depends on you, the self development, right? And you have to promise, determine yourself. Remember, I gave you example, positive psychology. Before that, I gave you another psychological expert. I will do it, and I can do it, right? My happiness is my responsibility. So focus on your highest possible ideal, acquire the skill to reach there, always try for Kaizen, continuous improvement, achieve a ecstasy or flow phenomenon, essentially telling you, challenge yourself as per your skills. That will take you far. I tell you, the doctor is this you have known, everything. And in summary, each of us should be like this. We are physicians, surgeons, and doctors, and various disciplines. And this is our life. What you need, and this is the last slide. You need what I told throughout the lecture, that you want to have a goal. Remember, in medicine, you have short-term goals and long-term goals. For treating, reading, doing research, everything has two goals. For that, you need skill, which you have to acquire and practice. Practicing skill doesn't only improve and achieve your goal. You have to focus, concentrate. Unless you concentrate, you cannot focus. When he is concentrating, he sees the eyes with a goal to hit it, so that he can short-term goal, right, to hit it. Long-term goal is to marry Draupadi. What are the variables? People love him. Population expectations. The kings doesn't want he should succeed. Variables, right, which influences your outcome. And therefore, this is what your medicine is, and all your goal-directed therapy. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, knowing is only not enough. We must apply. I told you, willing is not apply. enough. We must acquire the skill to do it. Thank you. Hope I have passed on certain message.
Thank you, sir. In your usual style, you've sent across message after message after message. If somebody refuses to listen, then obviously he doesn't get your messages. But if they do, then there's not one but hundreds of messages. If you could implement and do even a part of what you've taught us to do, we would we would
I have not taught. What I learned, I explain. What I have learned over a period of time. I didn't know that. If I would have known all these things, probably my life would have been different.
But people like me, Vinny, Shalimar, and lots of others who are on this, as well as who are not with us in this particular session, who've learned from you over the years, have have had lots and lots of things to learn from you. Uh, to all of us who are on this show, all that I'll say is that my association with Dr. Acharya goes back to 1981, when I first met him as a undergraduate student, an intern, I think, and he had just started doing his DM in gastroenterology. I've had a long lasting relationship with him since then. I've had the honor and pleasure of working with him on numerous activities. And there have been innumerable times during the day, during the evening, late in the evening, and even past midnight on occasions when he would come down to my office and say, तूने ये काम तेरे को बोला था तूने कर लिया ना, and I would have forgotten, and I would wonder, how did he remember? He told me this 6 months ago. How could he still remember this? He's uh, he's somebody who cherishes teaching. He's somebody who loves to see his students blossom. On more than one occasion, he's told me, this person is going to be my best endoscopist. This person is going to be my best immunologist. This person is going to be my best laboratory person. And he's been proven right not once but many times. So, in addition to everything else, he's a great assessor of people and their abilities to achieve something and not achieve something. So, thank you very much for sharing
Thank you.
with us all your experiences, these thoughts, as well as uh, you know
Now I could have gone on and on and on.
I know. We all know that you could have gone on and on and on. And I'm sorry I had to interrupt you. We all enjoy listening to you, and we would love to continue to listen to you. But I think it is important for the students who are on this program to ask questions. I will moderate. Shalimar will moderate the rest of the session, and so questions from the students. And over to you, Shalimar. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, can we have questions from the students? Please feel free to ask anything you want.
Anything. Nonsense questions also are welcome.
There are no questions that are nonsensical. If there is a question, obviously there is a sense to it.
No questions.
It always takes time.
This is
So
obvious.
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yes. Anybody can ask.
At the age of 69, a lot of people would sit back and relax. A lot of people would say, I've done enough. You've been Dean Research, you've been head of the Department of Gastroenterology, you've been president of various professional societies, you've led various task forces. Uh, what now pushes you to develop another institution or make another institution move to another level?
I told you a story, Piyush, in the lecture that I saw a picture. The picture was a cliffhanger. There are many pictures like that. The duration is 3 hours. It took me 10 minutes. Like I thought picture is finished. 10 minutes. It was 3 hours. Because I enjoyed it. That is my relaxation. That relaxed me. And it have found time. That was Einstein taught theory of relativity. Right. You sit with a beautiful girl, it is like 5 minutes. You sit with a iron hot, 5 minutes look like 5 hours. Right. So you do what you like. I will tell you, I have seen you. You will work in your room up to 2 a.m. editing journals. You love it. You love to learn PDF. You remember the initial days when you were interested in computer?
Sir,
We sneaked into Professor B. N. Tandon's room
that's right.
in the dead of the night.
Yeah, there were
You
only two
enjoyed it.
computers.
You learned computer.
That's right.
You have answered. You have answered my question. That you do what you like. What is sitting back and relax? Waiting for death?
Sir, you had a life-changing incident in 2007, 2008.
2007, 6th May.
So I think you should tell the students about it because the way you rebounded back after that incident and still at this age, you're running every day. You're running is physically also you're running every day morning for 1 hour. You're running an institution. You're doing research, giving lectures. I think that incident was so life changing, and the way you rebounded back is an inspiration in itself. So I think for 1 or 2 minutes you should talk about it. What happened in 2007, sir?
That is again another interesting story.
One
But
of
that
the
happened. Piyush knows it very well.
inspirational
And
stories.
you also know it.
No, but for the students, it's a very inspirational story. I think they should know about it.
Well, well, in 2007, I was going for a walk early in the morning to the near deer park. You boys must have seen the deer park. And while crossing the Green Park crossing from Yusuf Sarai, early in the morning, I was hit by a car in the back. I was thrown 18 feet above and fell on head on the tarmac. And my skull broke. There was intracranial bleed, subarachnoid bleed. The spine broke. Probably all the spine, cervical spines were broken. And there was a few lumbar spine also cracked. And there are other injuries as well as my hand, one of my fingers were gone, and I was bleeding profusely. And somehow or other, there was a event, very kind gentleman, and who was working at AIIMS in our examination section. His name is Kamal. He's a peon. He's still now employee of All India Institute, permanent employee in private work. And he saw me because that day his responsibility was to come to examination center to bring out examination paper to the car so that entrance test will be held. That day AIIMS entrance test was there. He saw me, and there was another gentleman was coming in the car. He requested to take him. They brought me, and when I reached, MRI revealed that my spines are broken and odontoid is just sitting on the medulla. And it's very difficult to do anything. And many people thought that I'll be dead within few days. And they advised me to put on a plaster jacket. But I think some of the young colleagues, as well as one of my brother, told, no, we'll operate him, let him die on the table. And that took about 8 to 12 hours, combination of neurosurgeons and other people. They lifted the odontoid process up, and then I survived. And when I woke up, I found I was paralyzed. My hands were not working. Of course, it took me about an hour to fight, 1 year to fight back, to come back to the functionality. But what Beneath is asking, the psyche of recovering, fighting back. And that's what I told you, Beneath, that from the very beginning, one thing, therefore, I always say young students must do sports because it teaches you one thing at least. It teaches you never say die. You are defeated, fight back. There will be a time when we'll win. You may be defeated 3 times. You may be defeated 4 times. but sometimes he will win. And only way you can win is a persistent perseverance of efforts for which you need a character. And that is what I call self confidence, which in various ways I was trying to explain. I cannot explain how I recover. Probably there was some break of luck. But well, yes, in my mind, I was determined. I was focused. And I was absolutely certain that I will pull myself back. And therefore, I could pull myself. And I thought, I remember one of my colleagues, who is also our colleague, Pramod, coming telling me, sir, you should not get depressed. I didn't understand that because I was never depressed. And I was never thought that I'm handicapped. I always thought, well, yes, if my hands are not working, my brains are working, my legs are working, I will work with that. So that is the spirit which I want to convey to the boys through various examples. That if you want, you can do. So there is another statement which Professor Nandi always writes on his board: when going gets tough, the tough gets going. It is very important, and Piyush, you will realize that I have remembered them, indicating how much it must have influenced my mind. That's the trick, Vinith. Nothing else. Simply determination, focused, concentration, that you will do it. You will do it, probably.
That has been an incredible story which we have seen happening before us. And it is difficult to believe like what you were in, what happened to you in 2007 and what state you were in. And we are so grateful, feel lucky to see you so nice and fit now after those years. At that time, it was difficult to imagine. So it is absolutely, I would say, a testament to your indomitable determination, and that is a living tale. And I think that is one of the best messages which can go across to the youngsters.
Yeah, I agree.
That I would say you have been the most interesting individual. Despite have means you have been a
Controversial.
researcher, a great teacher, mentor not only to faculty, students, us, but mentor to the whole department. You mentored the department and took it to the heights which there were much greater heights. The heights gastroenterology achieved under your mentorship, under you as a captain, was tremendous. But overall, I would say one quality I would rate even better than all of these have been you have been a very, very interesting person. You can be never boring to talk to you. You have been very frank and very interesting. It has been always a pleasure talking
Thank
to you.
you. Thank you so much.
That's
Vinith, that is called ecstasy, flow. If you completely get absorbed in the environment and surrounding, in the meantime, I must have scolded many of my students. Even I must have scolded many of you. But I was involved. I was involved, and that is what I call flow phenomenon or ecstasy. I used to challenge myself. What is this? What is from my wife?
ma'am is also
I want to ask a question.
how are you?
I want to ask a question. You told you can answer, we can question any nonsense things. This is one of the nonsense things I
This is
want to ask.
for undergraduate students. This is not
I
for
am,
professor's wife.
I am your student. If I'm allowed, then I can ask. Otherwise, not. There's no problem.
No, no, ma'am, you're definitely allowed to.
I want to ask you.
I'm
Following
in Delhi. I am in Cuttack.
Okay. Following Vinith's advice, have you been able to succeed in charming any girl till now?
Well, that has gone out of my mind. That was younger days. That is not right question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Hello.
can the students go ahead and ask? Sir, please. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
Dr. Sujit here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, it's been always a pleasure to listening to you, and it's always inspiring. And I have that pleasure of working with you for 3 years in AIIMS. Now, I just want to ask, many a times what we do, what we find is when you start, at the start, you always have that motivation factor, things going up, adrenaline surging, right? But in the process, most of the times what you find, you have a lot of detractors in terms of small adversities, this and that and all those things. That is a phase wherein we think that we need real push, something that should keep us going so that we can reach to the end. So what do you think we should do, or what are those things that we will keep us going in those period of adversities or detractors, or you don't get demotivated in the process?
You see, this is a pure uh, evolutionary thing. You see, your mind has two parts. One is preservation of basic instinct, just like immune system. Innate immune system is preserved across the mammals, but the adaptive immune system evolved to take care of intracellular pathogens. Similarly, in human beings, across the mammals, we have the basic instinct, that is jealousy, intolerance, anger, greed, sex, right? Hunger, all those things. But over a period of time, you have evolved a rational mind as well, which is called your essentially intellect or thought processes. Since you have an evolved brain and evolved mind, that is a rational component, the trick is to learn to use those rational components. Many of the components, remember, at a unit time, your brain can handle 120 kilobytes. I will give you a simple example. Suppose I am talking, you are listening. Your brain will take 60 seconds or your 60 kilobyte. At a time, there is 120 kilobyte capacity, 60 kilobytes to analyze it, register it. So at best, you can hear two people. Suppose three people, four people talk, your brain cannot register. You cannot listen anything. Right? So the brain has to be trained to, right, use that rational mind. That rational mind actually has given you that Arjun's picture. That there will be detractors. There will be king who thinks this fellow should lose. There will be detractors. They will be doing politics, right? But your job, his job is to absolute focus and concentration. There will be difficulty, right? But those difficulties should not detract you. Those difficulty, when it comes, that difficulty you should take. This is a difficulty I expected. This has come, and I have to challenge it. That's why I told you this concept. Challenging self, particularly in difficult times, with a focused mind to achieve, is the trick. And therefore, these words, tough gets going when going gets tough, or winners never quit, or quitters never win. These are only evolved minds, determined or trained effect for which you have to train. There will be always detractors. There will be always variables. That is not law of nature. Anything you see, there will be variables. So Sujit, get focused, get determined. Don't look at the detractors. Detractors will be there. They are factor K, constant.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, among the questions from the students, Lajja wants you to talk something about your research work.
Research. I will not talk about my research work. It's very varied and is a long period of time. There are various subjects. But I will tell you one thing. Research will make you a good doctor. And I always say clinicians particularly should do research. Basic scientists should do research. Or they have to do research because that brings in paradigm shift. But incremental improvement comes from clinical research. Small improvement. I will give you an example. Suppose, Lajja, you have treated 100 patients and you have not kept the record of those 100 patients at all. Another 100 patients, you kept the detailed records. जिनका डिटेल रिकॉर्ड रखे हो उनको पता है कितने अच्छे हुए कितने बुरे. जिनका रखे हो नहीं हो अप्रोक्सीमेटली पता है. जिनका रखे हो उनको एनालाइज करोगे, जो अच्छे नहीं हुए हैं जो अच्छे हुए हैं उनका अंदर डिफरेंस है. Those differences will teach you. make you treat the 101th doctor better. But unless you have analyzed those 100 patients, you think you are treating better, but you may not be treating them better, or doing things, diagnosing them better, or doing whatever you do. You are not doing better unless your previous experiences are analyzed to grow or develop. That's why I told you Kaizen, incremental improvement. Raise your hands a little bit. How can you raise your hands unless you have all intact muscles? And unless you have all patients' records, unless you analyze them, how will you go further? Therefore, you should do this. That's what I will tell you, Laja.
Question from Swati is, what happened to your football career?
Oh, God. Well, that was a very interesting story. I was actually determined to play for my state first. So I was to be selected for Santosh Trophy for the state. Indeed, I was selected. Unfortunately, I come from a low socioeconomic background, and that was a period when we were in schools. India was free. When I was born 51, 47, India was free. I was school in 60s. And that is about 13, 14 years after the freedom. And there is hardly any money in the country. And economic security very bad. So every family member wanted somebody to do some professional work so that he can earn his livelihood. And those were the pressures under which I was also, I underwent. And as a result, I couldn't pursue my career, soccer career, because I have to pursue a professional life to survive. I didn't have the luxury of Randy Paws to pursue a line which interests me or engrossed me. However, I have no regret because I developed tremendous interest in medicine as well.
Okay, Bhavik, can you please go ahead and ask your question?
So my question was like, do you believe that there is a correlation of the part of spirituality in personal professional life from your generation to our generation? Is there like a significant difference, and like how does that get in?
That will be an opinion of mine, not necessarily a fact.
Works?
Right? The spiritual aspect. You see, I will tell you what I have learned. I will tell you. I don't know what our younger generation thinks. Difficult to think about younger generation's mind because they have grown up in a different environment with a lot of other inputs, right? Which actually influences mind by default. But well, ability to surrender yourself to somebody whom you believe is powerful gives you solace, and also in a way provide you confidence. Therefore, ability to believe in a power or God, whatever may be, or something, some philosophy, is always helpful. In medicine, there is a term called empathy, feeling the pain of a patient whom you are seeing. Now, empathy is also cannot be developed by everybody. Empathy is a character, I believe so. People say you should have empathy, but empathy is a character. And to develop empathy, probably spiritualism is a key assistance factor. And therefore, I think in medical profession, spiritualism will be important because it helps a doctor to develop empathy and be kind. And that turns out to provide him tremendous amount of result. So if the younger generation today is not devoting, they are detractors. Mind will be many. And maybe better to have some aspect of spiritualism to help yourself. It helps you individually. That's what I will think.
Okay, Swati, can you go ahead with your question to sir? Swati, can you go ahead with your question? Okay,
Yes.
I think
Ah.
probably she's not connecting. Sir, our question is, do you think surgeons have changed from throwing scalpels and throwing tantrums, and would you consider taking up surgery if you were a student in the current generation, as she's an aspiring surgeon?
No, surgery is fantastic. I have nothing against surgery. That was the experience as a young man, what I saw, and what influenced my young mind. Therefore, surgeons, right? Usually, these are the habits of older day surgeon trained abroad, right? Thinking that they're doing great things. But medicine and surgery has taught us that, well, we don't know much about science till now. We are learning every day. So throwing tantrums, I find is a absolutely useless thing. And if you are wanting to become a surgeon, very good. Welcome. We need brilliant surgeon. Professor Peush Sahni is a brilliant surgeon. I always say that he is a fantastic surgeon. But I've never seen him throwing tantrums. I saw in a very young age throwing tantrum. Yes, if I see somebody in surgery uh, making me, as I told, teachers influence and making me very interested in surgery, I'll do it anytime.
Shalimar, may I make a comment?
Yes.
So, a friend of mine, a few years senior to me, cardiothoracic surgeon, went for training uh, to Australia.
Hmm.
When he came back from Australia, we were sitting in the cafeteria. In those days, the cafeteria had chairs and tables,
Yeah.
and so we were sitting on one of those tables and talking about his 1 year long experience in Australia. And one of the things I asked him is, are surgeons in Australia the same as they are here, throwing tantrums, throwing scalpels around, throwing instruments around, abusing people? So he said, no, in fact, it was quite the opposite experience. So the senior surgeon used to unscrub before the case was over, would leave some things to be done by these trainees, would watch them on a CCTV camera,
That's it.
and when they had finished the case and they were unscrubbing, he would put the coffee on, put the pot on to boil and get their coffee ready. So by the time they came, he'd say, your coffee is ready. And he knew exactly how much sugar, how much milk or black coffee a fellow who had scrubbed with him took. So the coffee was made to the person's choice. So I don't think you're great surgeons if you throw tantrums. That was just
That's correct.
that
Totally.
was that was just a few people who were made that way
Those
and
are
threw
older days.
tantrums. But so even today there'll be people who'll throw tantrums, and a lot of us are a lot of us who operate in these kind of environments will shout and scream when we don't get what we need because we think this might make a difference to a person's life. And then you obviously tend to lose your cool. But a good surgeon is a surgeon who can take that also in his or her stride and not lose cool. That's my opinion.
I agree.
I may be totally off the mark.
No. I totally agree. That is that what I saw as a young man. And that was true. And when I saw that, I didn't like it. Right. But you were right, 100%. That's correct.
Sir, we've got a question from Professor Sharan regarding is how do you balance your time and responsibility between the work and family?
Well, that's a very difficult question. Balance with responsibility. work and family. Uh, if you ask me my personal question, my personal answer, I don't balance. I do. I do both the work, whatever necessary for my family, and the work actually which I used to do, I used to enjoy. So that was not work for me. And for family, that was our necessity. So that I will do. So that was also not uh, boring or problematic for me. But most important thing is I've been helped tremendously by my wife. 50% of the work of my household will be done by more than that. Everything takes care. And so that was a great help to me throughout my life. Because he stood by my side in everything and all the problems and everything. So it is not very difficult to balance family life and my work life because I have a very understanding and a very uh, understanding wife who is like a friend who helped rather than asking for anything demand. That was probably my trick. I didn't balance anything. It happened. It happened because my wife was there. And I used to love the work. So I never thought work is work. That will be my answer. Till now, I don't think medical work is work. I every day go to the hospital. I feel bored unless I see some patient. I will take regular here DM classes. You have started DM, so every day 1 to 2 I am taking a lecture, or Asti Anand is taking a lecture, or Professor Mahapatra J surgeon, he will come and take a lecture, or some other students will take a lecture. We'll discuss amongst ourselves, and that's enjoyable, pleasure. That's why I told every day you learn, and knowing is fun.
I think you're carrying on your legacy. I do remember that most of the Sundays you'll be here in the hospital in the morning time, and
Yeah.
your room would be the lights would be switched on, and would be one of the few people who'll be coming to Sunday after Sunday. It's like that's what is there. So
Not
that's
only me, Piyush used to come,
yeah.
ask him.
So I'm saying one of the set. I'm saying like I do giving credit to everybody, but you will be there every Sunday, the whole morning and until afternoon, and then you'll go back. So
That's the time we get Shalimar to read and write, no?
very correct. So do we have any more questions from the undergraduates? Any question anybody wants to ask? May I ask Dr. Aditi to have her some comments? Aditi?
Hi. Thank you, sir, for this excellent lecture. And it's a it's a great opportunity for us to learn from the greats. That we have people like you taking lectures. It will be very inspirational for the students, I'm sure, but also for the residents and all very importantly also for the faculty who is listening in. For years, we have seen you work so hard, and we know how hard you work and how committed you are to your patients as well as your research, and now we know also to your family. So, thank you for that inspiring lesson. If there are any more questions, we will ask the students to give us a feedback, and if there are any more, we'll get back to you over email on those questions, sir.
No, anytime, always there. You see, I consider the AIIMS is one of a very important alma mater. I learned so much. Whatever I learned there. It made me a doctor, and it made me, gave me a life. Anytime, anything, right, I'm there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So if
Thank
there are
you
no
very
more questions, I would like to thank Professor Sahni and Dr. Shalimar, both of you, for your continued participation and such active engagement with the audience and with the faculty taking the talk. Thank you, sir. Yeah, hi.
Dr. Sharan is suggesting that I should
Hi.
say.
Oh, yeah, Pragyan, hi.
From a doctor's perspective.
Oh, yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Everybody, I am Dr. Subrat K Acharya. I'm currently a faculty at the Department of Biochemistry at AIIMS, and I'm also Professor Acharya's daughter. So Professor Sharan is suggesting that I should say how, from a daughter's perspective, Professor Acharya has said. And essentially, I think he, as you heard this lecture today, but I've heard it every day of my life. And all these lessons are deeply ingrained in my brain, and I can give you this lecture like Einstein's driver could give his lecture without any preparation. I can also do this for the same lecture. Okay, but other than that, in terms of like somebody had, Professor Sharon had asked me how he balanced family and research. Well, he was always an excellent and inspirational father. He still is, and he had very little time. And I remember fighting with him every day. "Ki, why don't you play badminton with me?" And he would. But in spite of all of these things, I think he was able to give us a lot of quality time and inspiration. And in fact, my love for science also accidentally stemmed from his love of science, because I remember that when he was doing a fellowship in United Kingdom, and he was taking a molecular biology course, and he used to read his course material and leave it on the coffee table, and he used to be gone before we woke up. And we would wake up, go to school, come back, and then look at that material. And because I read his coursework, I think his on molecular biology, I got interested in science. And in many ways, in terms of inspiration, in terms of having access to a lot of science, in terms of thinking, he's inspired us as a father, and I think we are very lucky kids. That's it.
Thank you, Pragyat, for that excellent insight into a daughter's perspective of a very successful and very inspiring faculty member of the Institute. And with that, if there are no more questions, Dr. Shalimar, should we just close the session now?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead. If maybe Professor Sharon can give his concluding comments.
Yes, sir. Dr. Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Acharya, for a very
Thank you, Pradap.
inspiring talk. And we hope to hear more from you at different times and be inspired by you always.
Thank you. Very kind words. I was
Thank
very
you, sir.
happy to see all of you, particularly going back to the old days, right? And also happy to see my wife and my daughter for 3 months. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aditi.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you. Nice
Thank
to hear
you,
from
sir.
you.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
Piyush.
Peush Sahni. Thank you, sir.
Piyush, you look younger.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Shalimar, black hair dye karo. Bye-bye. Leaving. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you,
Right,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.